Hello again and welcome to another edition of Suds Country. Hi, I'm Herb Suds and welcome to the show, my friends. We are in Monmouth County, New Jersey at Historic Allaire Village. And next to me is Todd. Todd, what are we going to see here? You're part of the village. Tell us what's going on here.
Well, what we're going to see today is a little bit of an 1830s iron-producing community. That's what Allaire Village is, named after, of course, James P. Allaire. And what we do here, by the way, is living history. We're here throughout the year trying to reinterpret some of the events of Mr. Allaire's business back in the 1830s. And we're going to see a little bit of the structures that are still here today, and of course meet some of our craftsmen as well as some of the people around some of the homes. How long did Allaire physically own this property? Allaire owned this property for over 30 years or so. He bought it in the 1820s. He started building it up, and by the mid-1830s, a lot of the structures you'll see today were, of course, completed. He retired during the years of the 1850s, so about a good 30 years we saw here. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it was an active community for the whole 50 years? It was a very active community for the most part of those. Of course, towards the end of his retirement years, things started to wane, and we chose the 1830s because that was the heyday of the village, if you will. Well, Todd, as we stroll through the village here, it's only fitting and proper to stop by the church. Yes, indeed. Here we are standing in front of Christ Church Chapel here at Allaire Village. This building was constructed in 1836, serviced the village as, of course, the church here, many weddings, funerals. Mr. Allaire's own daughter, Maria, was married here in June of 1836. Of course, is a meeting house throughout the year, and most importantly, a schoolhouse. This is where the children of the workers went to school 3 days out of the week. How many workers were there in this village? Well, we have a rough estimate about the year of 1836. We have a list of over 100 or so men working here. Of course, there are many of them married, wives, of course, involved, and the children even worked here. So we're talking close to about 200 to 300 people working for Mr. Allaire here at the How Works, as it was known in the 1830s. That's pretty interesting. So the church goes back to 1836 and was used for many purposes in those days. Absolutely. All right. Well, Todd, we continue to walk through the Allaire State Village, and we're in front of the blacksmith shop. Tell us about the blacksmith and the purpose of the smithy. Well, the smithy, of course, very important here in a village like this. Repairing wagons, sledges, horseshoeing the poor horses and oxen. Of course, mending tools, etc., etc. That's the purpose of the blacksmith. So they've been pretty busy. Do you know, just a question, how many horses, how much wagons and all that kind of stuff it took to run a village like this in the old days? Oh my gosh, I'd say somewhere in the hundreds, yeah, certainly. I mean, we had the mules, the oxen to carry the heavy loads, the horses, of course, coming and going. A lot of hustle and bustle here in the village. Now, this is basically an iron working village. Made iron, did you say? Exactly. This is an iron producing community. That's what Mr. Allaire did. Of course, the raw pig iron he made and shipped up to New York and other places. And of course, hundreds of different items made of iron right here in the village. Well, Todd, I think we should go in and visit the smithy. Yeah, let's go inside for a little bit. Okay. We're in the blacksmith shop here at Allaire Village, and Floyd is next to me, and Sue is here. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Tell us what we're doing, what you, the blacksmiths, are doing in the shop now.
Well, basically, if it's made out of metal, it comes out of this shop. Everything from nails right on up to the biggest gear that might be in the blast furnace.
Now, this is an active shop today?
To an extent, yes, it is.
Sue, what's your position here?
Actually, I'm an apprentice blacksmith. I just started here recently, and Floyd's helping me out, teaching me some of the basic techniques and things.
What have you made so far that we can look at?
Pretty basic stuff. I made this hook here. Oh. I've made some towel racks and nails and smaller things like that.
And what brought you to be an apprentice blacksmith?
Well, it always appealed to me. I like the idea of making things, and I also like the idea of really working physically, you know, doing something that's difficult physically. So it's a combination of the creativity and being able to get good exercise.
And Floyd, how long have you been smithing?
Oh, off and on, about 20 years.
Oh, so you got some experience.
Yeah, but my father's cousin was a blacksmith, and I kind of learned basics from him, and I farmed, so it helps me. I've been down here about 10 years.
Okay, good. Well, Todd, we're standing on Main Street here in Allaire Village in front of the general store. Tell us more about this general store and the purpose of the store and going back.
Well, the general store was one of the busiest spots here in the village, of course. As you notice, it's a very large building, largest one we have here in the village. When it was finished, it was one of the largest stores in all New Jersey. The items sold here, my gosh, we had a butcher shop here in the basement. People can get their fresh meat, fish. We're close enough from the ocean to get our fish and shellfish. This floor that we're looking at right here, of course, all general merchandise. Hundreds of different items, clothing, toys, fabric, everything you can imagine, medicine, etc., etc. Upstairs, we even sold furniture. Mr. Allaire had furniture for sale, of course, to outfit some of the new apartments for his workers. And the top floor, used for storage. And this building, of course, as a matter of fact, has one of the first earliest freight elevators ever constructed. But this also was home to the post office here in the village. People received their mail one day a week. Of course, we're limited to horse and carriage back then. So, again, it was one of the most popular spots. And I would like to mention, though, that this store, when it was finished, was very popular to the people in the area here, that as far as 50 miles away, people would shop at this store. This was very famous when it was constructed.
This village had its own doctor?
The village didn't have a doctor living here. We had several local physicians who would come in and treat the people as needed. But
you mentioned medicine here before.
I mentioned medicine. I do portray several characters, one of them being one of the local physicians. But again, we didn't have any living here on the premises.
Well, Todd, time to wrap up this edition of Southern Country at Allaire Village. And what's behind us?
Well, what you're looking at here is all that remains of the iron-producing complex. We're looking at the old blast furnace here, folks. That roof, by the way, is just a modern addition to keep out the nature animals and the whatnot that could destroy the structure. Of course, this blast furnace was where all the iron was made. This hole that we're looking at here is actually used to have a ramp leading up to it. The men would spend all day pouring the ore and the charcoal and down into there.
Pretty interesting. Thanks for being on the show, Todd. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tell people we're at Allaire Village.
We're at Allaire Village. You can reach us on the web, www.allairevillage.org. You can give us a call here at 732-919-3500. We're open year-round. During the summers, we're here 5 days a week, open to the public. Admission is free. Come out and enjoy.
There you go.